Right now on 10 TV News at 4, we are expecting new information from law enforcement at any moment about the mass shooting inside a New Albany warehouse.
There's a worker inside and he has a gun.
911 calls reveal the chaos inside, and today we're learning more about the 5 other victims in the hospital.
We're gonna take care about his family. That's the one he working his family.
And 10 TV is talking with victim families today as our team works to learn more about what happened in that warehouse tragedy. 10 TV was the first on the scene last night and after the 13-hour search for the suspect. 10 TV News at 4 starts right now. Any minute now, we are waiting for New Albany police and other law enforcement agencies to bring us new information about the suspect in this arrest. Here's what we know right now. Bruce Reginald Foster III worked at KDC-1, the warehouse where that shooting happened. Police arrested him, though, after a 13-hours-long manhunt that ended near Wineland Park on 7th Avenue and High Street. Now, law enforcement officials tell us, 10 TV, that Foster was working in that warehouse for hours before the shooting happened. He then got into a car and someone drove him away from the scene. Foster is now in custody and right now charged with aggravated murder. We know one person died at the scene there in New Albany and 5 others were taken to the hospital. And 10 TV has been working for hours now to learn their conditions. We do have crews at the warehouse and where that suspect was arrested and also outside City Hall, including anchor Clay Gordon, who is at the New Albany Police Station near Village Hall right now. And Clay, what have we learned so far today?
Angela, good evening. It's truly tragic what's happening today. We are breaking into programming earlier today as we were anticipating an update on this investigation. We've been doing this all day long on 10 TV. We have live team coverage of every angle of this workplace shooting, and in any moment now we will be dipping in live to a live news conference. We've had crews spread out all across Central Ohio, starting at the warehouse all the way to the hospital where families are connecting with victims in this, and the apartment complex with the suspect who was taken into custody. Now, as soon as police walk up to this podium, we will bring you that live. But first, we are going to start with 10 TV's Lacey Crisp about what we know right now about what happened overnight.
In just a couple of minutes, New Albany police are expected to give us an update into the investigation after a more than 12-hour-long manhunt for Bruce Foster. That's the man who they say shot 6 people inside that manufacturing warehouse, killing 1, injuring 5 others. Now, we do know that several other agencies are assisting in the investigation. A gun was recovered on the scene. ATF is doing tracing on that gun to find out where it was purchased and if it's been used in any other crime. We're hoping police will give us an update and an insight about any kind of motivation Foster may have had. In New Albany, Lacey Crisp, 10 TV News.
All right, Lacey, a lot of questions. We're still looking for answers. And in any moment now, we will be going live to a news conference right here at City Hall right behind me, where we're learning more about Bruce Reginald Foster III, how he was arrested, how he ended up at that apartment complex. Of course, you mentioned the gun. We have a lot of questions about where that gun came from and if that has been involved in any other crimes. And of course, we're going to be learning more about the victims. We know at least 1 person is dead right now and 5 are injured. We're going to go right into City Hall right now to get the latest from police.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sloan Spalding. I'm the mayor of the city of New Albany. I'm going to provide a couple of brief remarks and then invite up New Albany Police Chief Greg Jones to share some additional details about the ongoing investigation. And we'll also hear from our friend Dallas Baldwin from the Franklin County Sheriff's Department. New Albany is a great community. We are a safe community and a great place to live and work. In fact, we've been rated one of the safest cities in all of Ohio. But sadly, any community in America can fall victim to random workplace violence. Last night, that random violence struck right here. New Albany police got the first call at 10:22 p.m. and officers were on the scene 4 minutes later. I want all New Albany residents and the employees that work here to know that their first responders acted quickly, with great professionalism, showing tremendous care and dedication to all involved. The City of New Albany is grateful for the focused teamwork of our partner agencies as well, all of whom have been working nonstop on saving lives and apprehending this suspect. Let me introduce a couple of those here today. Franklin County Sheriff Dallas Baldwin, Licking County Sheriff Randy Thorpe, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Licking County Prosecutor Jenny Wells, the Ohio State Highway Patrol, and the Office of the Ohio Attorney General's Bureau of Criminal Investigation. And let me thank the BCI special agents and technicians who showed up literally in the middle of the night to assist with the processing of this crime scene. The leaders of the New Albany International Business Park were also super helpful and professional throughout this entire incident, and we thank them for their support. I really want to thank the brave men and women of the New Albany Police Department and our dispatch team. We have some of the best people in law enforcement working right here in New Albany, and I'm so proud of the dedication they have every day to keeping us safe. We all know that the test of a true community is not when tragedy strikes. The test is how the people of that community respond to that tragedy. And I'm very confident, as hard as the last several hours have been for our community, that we will overcome this challenge, as we have with everything else, as a community together. We encourage everyone to join in praying for all of those that have been affected by this crime, specifically the victims and the deceased. And praise all of those folks here today that have worked so very hard to make sure that our community remains safe, and that those that are responsible for this act are held to justice. And now let me introduce Chief Greg Jones. And in case those that haven't recognized, I don't think Chief Jones has been asleep for about 36 hours now. Not a better person I'd want at my wing side on an incident like this. Chief Jones, on behalf of a grateful community, thank you, and we look forward to your update.
Well, as the mayor mentioned, that tragedies like this really test a community, and I think that the response to this tragedy really showed that the community is very strong. You know, one of the reasons that we have all these agency representatives behind us is that really it was an amazing turnout. We asked for help from 2 different sheriff's departments, from federal and state authorities, and there was many local jurisdictions that responded, a couple fire departments, and so really without the talent and the professionalism and the hard work of these people that did come out, like the mayor said, in the middle of the night, it really it would have been a lot harder for us to make an apprehension this quickly. You know, before I get started, this is an active and ongoing investigation, so there's a lot of questions that I can't answer, but I'll try to answer the ones that I can. So about 10:22 last night, we received a report of shots fired at KDC 1. If you're not familiar with KDC 1, it's a large building. It's a light manufacturing. Our officers were there within 4 minutes, along with a number of other jurisdictions that are represented here. Upon searching the building, we found 5 individuals who had sustained gunshot wounds that were injured, and 1 that was deceased from a gunshot wound. The suspect had fled the area, and we had just missed him. And immediately, the law enforcement community that responded launched a massive manhunt. And so overnight, there were warrants that were executed, and a lot of hard work, and ultimately resulting this morning with an arrest. The suspect is 28 years old. He was arrested in north end of Columbus, and on the arrest was New Albany police officers, BCI, the Marshal Service, ATF, and the Ohio State Highway Patrol. There may have been more that I just haven't mentioned. There was a less than lethal use of force applied, but overall there was no report of injuries. No law enforcement officers were hurt. The suspect was transported to the New Albany Police Department, where he was processed and questioned, and then since then he's been transported to the Licking County Sheriff's Office jail. With that, before I move forward, before we take questions, I'd like to invite Sheriff Dallas Baldwin up here to make a few comments. Thanks, Sheriff.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Dallas Baldwin, and first, our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and the families of the victims for this tragic incident. I'd like to echo what the mayor said about Chief Jones. Under his leadership last night, this could have been a very chaotic incident, a response from law enforcement. But we had numerous agencies, well over 100 cruisers, and it came together very well. Under Chief Jones, the searches took place instantly. Secondary searches, evidence was located, suspect information was developed, and having that instant communication with all the different agencies responding made all the difference in not having future victims. That carried through the night, and Chief Jones was up the entire night relaying information, and that resulted in a quick apprehension this morning of the suspect, and working with the U.S. Marshals Task Force. And just my comments are really to say how important it is to recognize all the agencies that came together so immediately, so quickly, and I truly believe that more lives were spared, because if we had not apprehended this guy as soon as we did, who knows what could have happened. But again, Chief, thank you for your leadership, and that's all I have. Thank you.
So at this point, we'll take questions. There was about 150 people in the building, employees. It has multiple shifts that run all day and night. So we were able to evacuate them quickly to another facility across the street. At that point, we interviewed people. They gave us information that helped develop a suspect. We also asked them about motive and maybe what's behind this. Nobody had reported that there was any conflict or that he was in trouble at work. So there was really no apparent motive at the time. Since then, now that we're learning more information and we're having a chance to talk to the suspect, that we are continuing to try to develop what the motive was.
When he was arrested, were there any additional weapons on him?
No.
We received a tip that from a family member of a victim that the case had received complaints about this suspect in the past. Do you know anything about that?
No, we don't.
The first time ever hearing about him before this incident?
Yeah, according to our records, we don't see that we've had we've been called out there for any reason or had to deal with him in any way.
Chief Jones, I know probably the marshal's more involved in the apprehension of the suspect, the less than lethal use of force. Can you talk more about that? What did it take? I understand they had to go inside the apartment and he didn't come out willingly.
Yeah, I don't know if the Marshal Service wants to talk about that anymore. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so when we serve a warrant, ideally we want them to just come to the door. The apartment was surrounded, 12, 16 officers, helicopter above. There's no escape. So by refusing to come out, refusing the commands, our team had to enter the apartment, locate him in the apartment. He again resisted commands, would not show his hands, would not do what he was told, would not lay down, put his hands behind his back, and a taser was deployed so that he could safely be taken into custody.
At that point, it was relatively routine, but once the taser was deployed, you were able to apprehend him without incident?
Correct.
Chief, do you know what he was doing at that location?
At KDC?
No, at the apartment, the Pier apartment in Columbus.
No, if you kind of look back over people's lives, there's an address history where people lived, and so this is just one of the locations that he currently lives, or I'm not sure if if he's the one paying the rent, but this is a place that he stays normally.
Any update on the other victims at this point? I know so many people are praying and hoping they're okay or will be okay.
Yeah, it's tough these days. We're not able to release a lot of information, and the family members have a right to say that they don't want that information released. So they are all they're hospitalized, and we're certainly hoping that they have a speedy recovery, but we don't have additional information on that. So I'm sorry.
Chief, do we still stand at 1 deceased and 5 injured, or have any more of the victims passed?
Currently, we have 1 deceased in the five that are currently hospitalized.
Could you elaborate on your last answer? You said motive was initially a mystery, but now it sounds like it's
I think it's not that we don't have a clear motive. I think that we're learning more about him and maybe some of his thoughts, that we are trying to develop a motive. Last night when we were talking to a lot of the people that were leaving the building and we were evacuating them, we didn't know anything about him. And so they really, consistently, everybody we talked to, they're like, we have no idea there was no fight or anything like that. And so as we learn more in any investigation, you start to develop some additional information. I think we're there, but we don't clearly have one yet.
we want Chief to answer everybody's question. If you could raise your hand and allow him to call on you.
Okay.
What led you to that apartment? Was it through the investigation or a tip?
It was through investigation. So, trying to.
Are you able to elaborate more on how this suspect was able to get a weapon into the building? And then we also heard on some of the 911 calls that there was possibly other people within the building trying to get that gun out of his hands in order to help other employees.
Yeah, there was, so first off, people have asked about security at the building. There are some built-in electronic security measures we needed to use fobs and things like that to make it throughout the building. To the extent of their security, we don't have that information. You might have to check with KDC. And then as far as the a confrontation, it does appear that there was contact between a victim and the shooter. I think at this point, I don't have a clear picture of how involved that contact was.
Can you take us back to last night and explain what it was like entering that space, what it looked like, how you were able to search the area and make sure that it was clear and ultimately respond to the victims?
Yeah, so, and this is not just true for this department, but years ago we used to have to get together a team of 4 before we would make entry on an active shooter. That was over 20 years ago or even longer. What we teach now is a single officer response. So the first officer on the scene, they're making entry to try to find the active shooter. Quickly, like I said, the response from our neighbors and county sheriff's departments was amazingly quick. So we were quickly able to switch from a single officer response to putting in teams. And if I recall, I believe there was 3 teams that we sent in to clear the building. We also used a drone and canines. So the building is manufacturing, so it's not a bunch of offices that are pretty easy to. It's a lot of machinery, it's very loud, and there's a lot of nooks and crannies. So it took us hours to clear the building, the perimeter, and do that secondary check before we actually begin the work. Okay. Yeah, he utilizes a ride share apparently on a routine basis, and so we don't believe there's any connection between the person that gave him a ride.
Chief, how long did he work for the company, and what did he do?
We don't have that information at this point. When talking with the management and the supervisor of the company, it wasn't. Time did not allow us to kind of get into that kind of detail. We're learning more as we go on, though. Yeah, from information we gathered, he took a ride share to leave as well.
As far as tangential motive, does it appear he knew the people who shot?
These were coworkers, so we don't. Again, at this point, this is an active and ongoing investigation. We're not to the level where everything we're going to know at this point. But these were coworkers, people that work with them. With 150 people on a shift or so. They're going to typically know each other. So, try to picture.
Chief, usually these situations last a lot longer. Can you kind of explain how you guys were able to apprehend him so quickly and why?
Yeah, I think that the KDC has a good network of cameras, which was helpful. We're able to tell us basically, is he still in the building or did he leave? And I think that basically the talent of the men and women of the police department and the talent of the organizations behind us, when you take all this type of resources and put them to good cause. Each agency brings together different resources. Those together we're able to really, in a pretty fast manner, put together a picture of, hey, he might be in one of several locations, and basically divide and conquer. We had a tremendous amount of staff, and so people didn't need a lot of urging to go do their job. They really got to it quickly. Yes.
Earlier this morning, you guys used the word targeted
Yeah.
when describing the shooting, and that there was not a threat to the community. Do you mean from a point of targeted just toward employees, targeted toward a specific group of people, a specific person? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So we believe he brought the gun to work, and then also may have intended to take it with him when he left. So he chose to commit this act of violence at work. It wasn't, not on a share ride driver or not on a neighbor or something like that. So targeted in the respect that it was people that he works with.
Do you know how he obtained the gun?
I think that gentleman from the ATF, you want to kind of address this?
Sure. I'm Special Agent in Charge Daryl McCormick from ATF here in Columbus, and the suspect was the purchaser of the firearm. He purchased the firearm back in September of 2024. And we don't have any reason to believe that anybody else was involved in that purchase. He was not a prohibited person, so he was able to lawfully purchase that firearm.
What kind of gun? How many rounds?
Well, yeah, the firearm was a Glock Model 26. That's a compact 9mm pistol. Normally the magazine that comes with it holds 10 rounds, but it accepts a standard Glock magazine, and those can be up to 31 rounds. So I don't know exactly what he had, but.
Do you mind talking through what you guys do to trace the gun to see if it's been used in any other crimes?
Yes, when we get the information about the firearm, the make, model, and serial number, we are tracing that information sent to our National Tracing Center in West Virginia. We then contact the wholesaler, the manufacturer, then the wholesaler. It leads us to the retailer, licensed dealer that sold the firearm. They maintain records according to federal law, and those records were rapidly available to us. And from that, we were able to look at what's called the 4473, the transaction record, and obtain the information about the person who purchased it, which was the suspect in this case.
So this is New Albany's first homicide, I think, in a long time, if ever. Would you mind speaking on that, just how the community's feeling, how they're reacting to it?
Yeah, we've had felonious assaults, a shooting, stabbing, but nothing resulting in an actual death or homicide. So, this is obviously very rare for us. We prepare for these types of incidents. Typically every summer, we're doing active shooter training within the schools to help build familiarity for the officers that are operating the schools and for this type of incident. We sometimes rotate to different types of buildings. We do tabletops with these companies. We'll do active drills with them. So we prepare. You certainly hope that this never happens. But it's something that all police departments across the United States need to prepare for.
Quick question about Mr. Foster's family. Are they nearby? Have you had conversations with them to shed some light, or where does that stand?
Yeah, we did speak with family member, at least one family member overnight, and it didn't result. That was not the key to locating him.
We have time for about 2 to 3 more questions. Do you have any indication as to when employees at the plant are expected to be back at work? I know that the building was closed down today, but this is,
Yeah, I'm not. We turned the building once the BCI committed the crime scene work. We released the building back to the management of the company, and they didn't indicate what their plans for were bringing the operation back online.
Can you share details about the process of naming a suspect? We found out, I think it was like around maybe 4 this morning or 5 this morning, who that suspect is. Why did it take so long to name who that person was?
Well,
Put his photo out there?
Yeah, and as you know from the press coverage, this has reached far beyond the just Central Ohio area. So we have to make sure that we somebody tells us this is who this is, somebody else says the same thing. Sometimes witnesses, they make mistakes or they're just not sure. We have to make sure that we're right. We wouldn't certainly want to broadcast to the United States that, hey, this is the bad guy, and find out this guy had nothing to do with it, and obviously damage him severely.
Can I hold up we've determined that he knew his coworkers, which
Yeah.
sounds like logical. Do you think he targeted those 6 people, or do you think they were just around when he started shooting?
I think we're beginning to get a picture of that. So I think that we don't have a clear direction as far as whether we need to go through and find out like where's his workstation compared to the other people's. So I don't know that we have a clear idea on that. I think there are obviously leads we're tracking down in that area, but nothing definitive that I can really answer.
This will be the last question. Now that he's in custody, is he cooperating with law enforcement?
He has spoke with investigators. I don't know. I wouldn't call him fully cooperative, and so the next step is he will be arraigned tomorrow morning, I believe, in Licking County.
Thank you for coming. You're welcome to email comms at New Albany, Ohio for more information. I believe I've spoken with more of you, and you can go to newalbanyohio.org/alerts for the most up-to-date information. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.
And you just heard the news conference right behind me inside the city council chambers here at New Albany City Hall. The latest update on the KDC-1 New Albany mass shooting that happened last night. We heard from several people during this and got plenty of new details that I do want to recap with you. We first heard from the New Albany mayor saying that he hopes we could all join together for prayer for those that have been impacted. Now, the chief of police here, Greg Jones, in New Albany, the police department, said that the shooting happened. They got the shots fired call at 10:22 p.m. last night. It took his officers 4 minutes to arrive on scene. And when they got there were 150 people working inside. They were able to evacuate those people nearby, and they did find 5 victims at the scene. 1 person was dead at the scene as well. And they said they just missed the suspect. Later in the news conference, they clarified that the suspect actually got away in a rideshare vehicle. And now the suspect was found in Columbus a short time later, a couple hours later, and he was, after a multi-agency arrest search warrant, they were able to locate the suspect at a former place that he either lives or rents out. They did not say if that was his main residence now, but they did bring him back to New Albany after deploying a taser to arrest him, and he is now booked at the Licking County Jail, rather. So we have a lot of new details out there, and the one big thing that came from this as well is that we do believe now that the suspect and one of the victims had contact prior to this incident. So we're learning a lot as this comes and develops in the last few minutes here too. We want to learn more about the victims right now. Let's get out to Kristen McFarland, who's been talking to the victims' families today, and they're at Mount Carmel East Hospital. Kristen, what are you hearing? What did you learn?
Yeah, Clay, it's been an emotional day to say the least here at the hospital. Families of injured loved ones really just trying to process this tragedy. One family I spoke to says their loved one was shot while working at that warehouse in New Albany yesterday on the clock, and obviously that family very distraught, expressing their concerns to me and their sadness over gun violence. They say their loved one is not doing well and that his wife is expected to give birth in the coming weeks. The family told me they are concerned about the future, adding that the husband was the main breadwinner for the family, and there are many unknowns at this point.
So it felt really bad. The saddest part is that his wife is giving birth to a baby in about 2 weeks now.
Now, again, as you just heard in that press conference, we are still working to learn the conditions of all the victims that were involved, and we'll keep you updated as we learn more. For now, live from Mount Carmel East, Kristen McFarland, 10 TV News.
Hi, Kristen. Thank you for the update there with the victim's family. I want to bring Angela Ann back in. Angela, you and I have taken active shooter training drills together, and we see this, as the mayor put it, a random act of workplace violence. You're hearing from the experts tonight, so for others that are seeing this news coverage of what happened in their workplace, what do you do in a situation like this if this happens at work?
It certainly probably was the big conversation, right, Clay? We had it here. Others people probably had it at their workplaces. What do you do in that moment that you hear that gunfire? Where do you run? Do you hide? What do you try to do? And so, you know, you and I went through this training, really opened our eyes, I think, Clay, when we heard from the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, the guys who run this craze training, as to what you really need to do. So first things first, they say, obviously, Clay, get outside, right? If you can, get away from that danger. But take a look at this video from past trainings by the Sheriff's Office. It really shows how you can defend yourself rather than just hiding and hoping that the active shooter will pass you by. In fact, those who teach the craze program say these are the words you need to know: avoid, deny, defend. Really the mantra to remember rather than run, hide, fight.
We still do prefer people to lock doors and barricade behind doors if that's the best option. But when people hear that word hide, they think, oh, this desk is going to protect me. This chair will protect me. This little piece of drywall will protect me. And we're seeing more often now, even with our active shooters, that they're shooting through drywall. They know bullets go through tables and chairs and stuff, and they're just targeting people that are in those type of spots where they believe that hiding provides them safety.
So that was Deputy Mike Featheroff, and he really is a pro at this. And he says, you know, hiding is so instinctual, right, for people when you get into that flight situation. But that's why he says active shooter drills are so important for companies to practice over and over again. In fact, he has a phrase, Clay. He says, the body can't go where your mind has never been. Think about that. The body can't go where your mind has never been. So basically, if you never thought about what you would do in a situation like what happened in New Albany, you really won't know how to behave because you never gave it a thought. So just something to think about as, you know, we move forward from what happened there in New Albany.
You know, Angela, it's so sad that we have to talk about this in society these days, but as we heard in the news conference earlier, you know, police and fire, they train for this all the time, these active shooting situations. There's no reason why we shouldn't train as well. And we should note this craze training is free for anyone, schools, churches, and companies. So you could sign up. It stands for Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events. We will link to it on 10tv.com/feature links. And Angela, I should say that we have a link to all of our streaming coverage right now on 10 TV, and you can stay with us on air, of course, 10 TV Plus, where we've been carrying all those live breaking news conferences throughout the day. And I do want to toss it back to you, Angela. Such a sad day here in New Albany, and we're thinking of all the victims and the families impacted from this, Angela.
We definitely are. Clay, thank you so much. Well, we'll continue to cover this story as the night goes on, but right now we are also doing this. We're tracking a weather impact alert day as freezing rain moves into the area in just